Let me let me introduce. This is my dad.
Uh, when I got to go home on leave, I got home on leave, and guess who was waiting for me?
So this stayed at your parents' house.
You know, it was from eastern Connecticut to Port Gordon, about 925 miles, and
But you think probably 45 to 50 miles an hour. 900 miles is
well, I'll tell
18
you,
hours.
I'll tell you what this baby will do. She will do 59 miles an hour, and I don't know how accurate the speedometer was, but I do know that if I tune I had the spark set so that I would normally run it just a little bit less than all the way forward. And when I got going fast enough, I could drop it down a little bit more and lean the gas. If I got everything just right, I'd get 59. I never could make 60.
With a tailwind,
Yeah,
going
maybe with a
downhill.
good tailwind, I might have been able to
Going
do it.
downhill.
But it was, I didn't think anything about it. I filled the gas tank, and
Well, 900 miles,
Yeah.
probably averaging more like 50
Yeah.
miles an hour. That's 18
But-
hours.
but a Model A, you need to be able to fix it if it breaks down.
Yeah,
You
even
can't take it to the Ford garage anymore.
even in 1960, it was old.
And I did have a little incident. I made it across Connecticut, maybe 100 miles. Then I was going across the bridge. Wasn't the Tappan Zee Bridge? It was wasn't a
Brooklyn,
Brooklyn Bridge.
Washington.
No, I don't remember what.
There's like a Washington Bridge there in New York.
Yeah, I forget.
George Washington.
That's been a long time. Anyways, I cross over the bridge. Squeak, 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 squeak. I said, ah.
Wheel bearing.
It was that wheel
Was
bearing.
that this one?
And I got off immediately and down, and there's an auto parts place. So I go in, and I said, I need a wheel bearing. Yeah, what do you need a wheel bearing for? I said, 1929 Ford. He said, we don't have those. I said, dang.
It's like 30-year-old car at that point.
Yeah, so I said, do you have one for a 48 Ford? Yeah, I got one for a 48 Ford. Give me one of those. I happen to know, and I don't know where I picked up on that, but they hadn't changed from 28 to 48. Got it, and
Yeah, I think a lot of people would use like the 48 juice brakes, the hydraulics, and you could swap the backing plate and have hydraulic brakes on a Model A. Up until some point, you could swap parts like that easily. So but maybe that's why you knew that, is that people wanting to swap to hydraulic brakes, modernized. But so the bearing actually would fit on this?
the brakes I never did have them the way they should be, and but I would drive accordingly.
Yeah,
I knew
just-
how long it took me to stop.
Yeah, just leave some room.
And so I drove this, the rest of the way down. No incidents really going down, and kept it around Port Gordon. Was pretty well known by everybody on post.
Well, so this is 60, 61, so really no interstates yet, right? In 1960, they didn't have that many interstates.
Before I had ever left, this is actually back in Massachusetts early on. I had the crank here, and years later, when I had a son, and he and his brother, the other son, decided that they'd seen this car collecting dust long enough that they were going to do something about it. Got it out, and I believe I had a tractor at the time, and they could get the tractor going.
Yeah, my older brother, he could actually crank it. I'd have to park it on a hill and roll start it because It was just too hard for me. I was a little kid.
So
This is like early mid '80s.
Yeah, they decided they were gonna, see what they could do on this thing. What had happened is when I had left on a tour for Germany, I had taken a Model A down and turned the engine over to a machine shop who could still pour bearings and machine them out.
The Babbitt.
That was rapidly becoming, scarce with the insert bearings that everybody had by then. They rebuilt it, put new vanes and connecting rod bearings, put it back together for me, and by then I was in Germany, and so when I got back from Germany, I went to OCS and.
So this was stored in your parents' that barn behind their house.
Yeah.
And the Model T.
I built a barn. The barn was, I believe it was 24 foot square and had an upper floor. Was built out of corrugated steel, cheap corrugated steel. And I had $400 invested in it, but we had a building, and this and the T were in there, along with a friend of my brother Jerry's had a Hudson Hornet. The Model A and the Model T took one side of it. The Hudson Hornet took the other side.
Yeah.
What a huge car. It would be fun to have that sucker now.
Yeah.
Pass anything but a state trooper.
Yeah. Yeah, these are nice because you can buy any part for them. Hudson Hornet, those would be hard to get parts for.
Yeah, that was so few of them. But to get back to this, I had been at a friend's house working on this. They had a barn, and so we had a place to get in out of the rain and whatnot, and get out. And battery, I never could afford to buy batteries, so these things come in handy. It wouldn't start, and I think we had probably gotten out of time and retimed it. Teenager retiming. Put the crank in, turned it over, wham! It hit me right in the knee. And I said, oh darn. And I took the crank out and I threw it into the woods. When I cooled down and my knee stopped throbbing, I went back and looked and looked and looked and never found that crank.
Yeah, rusty old crank in the leaves probably just disappears.
So
probably somebody found a crank in the middle of the woods and it's like, how did this ever get here? I never had a crank for these.
No.
I actually bought this one later.
Never had a jack, a Model A issue jack. But I had a block of wood. I think it was an 8x8, and was about this long. That's important. It had to be just the right length. If I had a flat on the back, and I have had flats on the back, I would lean it. Excuse me. I'd lean it against the axle, back up to the axle, and I could pick it up. And the piece of wood would plop into place, and I could change it.
This is where loading bales of hay and working for a farm comes into play, because you were pretty strong to be able to lift even the back of this.
Now, again, I mentioned about putting a wheel bearing in. One particular night we had 2 flat tires, and one of them, the tire was totally ruined, and the other one had a blowout, but it wasn't real big. And I had a patch kit,
You got your block of wood out and were able to jack it up.
Had to get the block of wood out, popped it up, had a a little kit with the top of the can where you rub the rubber and everything.
Oh yeah, like a bicycle repair kit.
Yeah. So I could patch it up, but it was a blowout.
So there was a hole in the actual tire.
In the tire. So I needed something. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Happen to have a Newsweek magazine laying around in the back. Why, I don't know. Again, God looks after fools and drunks. we weren't drunk, but we were fools. Obviously. Put that Newsweek magazine in there, put the tube in, pumped it up, and away we went. I had to break down and buy, tire and tube.
The Newsweek didn't last forever.
Basically, I usually could find, a used one with no fabric showing.
Yeah, the sad thing is, these are actually, from 1962 tires, have pretty good tread on them still, but they're from 1962. The rubber's very hard.
Yeah.
And the tubes won't hold air anymore, so these are actually flat. But you must have just bought these tires. They were in, I don't know if these were used, but these were pretty good tires at that time.
So we
So you disassembled this whole thing
yeah.
and then shipped off to Germany, and then I guess they finished rebuilding your engine for you.
Well, to back up just a little bit, to go back, before we tore it down and everything, on my first tour when I was in Fort Gordon near Augusta, Georgia, I put in my 2 years and I was going to go back home. I had a friend named John C. Turner III from Rockport, Maine. We were buddies. We were in the same barrack building and whatnot, and he and I decided we were going to drive it back. And I had worked on it down there at Fort Gordon some, and we piled everything in it. And now I had been on a pistol team, and I had a collection of reloading equipment and ammunition and guns,
which are heavy,
all kind of good stuff. And I had to go through New York City, which had the Sullivan Law, even way back then.
There's no weapons.
Yeah, this was the crime capital of the country, but they had a gun law.
Only the criminals get to carry guns.
So I went over and saw the sergeant that I knew at the, trying to think what they called it now, but anyway, they took care of people getting out. And I told him what my problem was. He put on my orders, made it official that this EM enlisted man is authorized to carry weapons and ammunition as a member of the pistol team.
Mm-hmm. The U.S. Army pistol team.
That made it official.
Looked official.
But it was official enough that, I think the average cop would have said, yeah, okay,
Mm-hmm.
Took care of that part. And we decided we were going to drive straight through because we couldn't afford a motel, that's for damn sure. Or we wouldn't spend our money on one. We start out and to stay on. This is not related, but the cop is not related. But we got a box of cigars. King Edward cigars were nickel a piece then. A box was like $2. And we'd smoke the cigars to stay awake. We got going and I got up to the North-South Carolina line and the width of South Carolina because we got a late start and it was night, dark. and it started boiling. And I believe now I have to admit that I probably did not torque the head bolts enough. Of course, I didn't have a torque wrench, but it felt pretty good.
One grunt or two.
Yeah, I didn't want to, crack the head. I had to get home, so I didn't want to push it too hard. Anyway, it starts leaking.
Well, and knowing you, you're probably reusing a head gasket.
Huh?
You were probably reusing a head gasket too.
Yeah, it was a used head gasket, sure. Yeah. But I had a more used head gasket underneath the seat in the back that I had taken off some time before. So, I'm taking the head off, and I said, we're going to need something to get water. I found there was a little brook running about where we're having the problem. I said, there's a house over there.
This is in the middle of the night, right?
This is in the middle of the night. I said, see if you can find something to put water in. I mean, even a beer bottle, anything, Well, Turner goes down there, and I'm working on, I'm getting it changed, and, we had to be careful, like, I didn't want to have to retime it, so the engine's got to stay right where it is.
Yeah, you don't turn the engine, you're fine.
Yeah.
So you pull the distributor out, start taking the head off.
I was getting the head back on and tightening up everything, and I heard this racket down there. And, Turner comes back after a while mumbling. I said, hey, John, what's the matter? He said, that damn dog down there. I said, what did you get? He said, I got this sand bucket out of the kid's play pen. I said, oh, okay. I said, looks like it would hold the water, So we did work great.
3 or 4 buckets for the little kid's bucket.
Filled it up, and
did you give the bucket back?
Huh?
You took the bucket back?
Well, we didn't take it back. We sort of took it back. He didn't want to, mess with the dog
again.
So I slowed down, and he rolled the window down and threw the bucket out.
So the kids could find it eventually.
Kept going, and we got up through Virginia, and we were, I think, in Maryland, approaching the Bay Tunnel.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty big, long tunnel, big sign on there. And everything.
It actually goes under the water.
It does, yes. And what happens? No. Oh, we got a damn rod knock. Oh, this is serious stuff. It's raining like crazy. And I pulled off the road.
Before the tunnel, or did you go through it?
I knew I was going to get soaked, so I didn't mind that so much, but I took a half-inch, this was half-inch with an extension bar and everything, got underneath there and took the oil pan carefully off, because we didn't have anything to put the oil in. We had to put it in the car so that the rain wouldn't fill it full of water.
Right.
And in doing so, I had to move a paper bag of pecans that I gotten from my mother. My wet hand caused the paper bag to,
Crumble.
Yeah. And all the pecans were in the oil pan. I had to pull them out of the oil pan. I forget what I put them in, but I gathered them up, and then I got underneath there.
Wiggle the rods.
There's. I looked again. Nut had loosened up. Some dumbass had used a nail instead of a cotter pin. Yeah, you know who it is. And the nail had come out.
So before this, Had you taken the bottom end apart of the engine?
I'm sorry.
Had you taken the bottom end out of the engine before you worked on it?
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
so that was you.
It was me. Okay.
Yeah, because nails are actually brittle and they'll actually break.
I think that's what happened. I think it broke and then it eventually slid
Just
out.
wobbled out.
But it made it all the way up to Maryland before it did this.
Where a cotter pin is actually a little bit softer metal.
Yeah. So I tightened it back up and
Torqued it.
the engine wouldn't turn over. I said, nah, the shims are gone.
Yeah, they probably got beat out of there.
Shims. Well, you guys may not know this, but in 1962, oil came in quart cans made out of metal. The metal was real thin. So I found one in 1962. People used to dispose of stuff by throwing it out alongside the road.
So you just found one laying around?
Yeah, again, there's somebody up there looking out because found a darn oil can and took a jackknife or something. I can't remember what now, but we fashioned some shims and I put them in there and I would try it until I got it where it would slide back and forth, but there was no movement this way. And
the engine would turn over.
And the engine would turn over.
Yeah.
So, looks pretty good, feels pretty good. So, okay, we put everything back in place. Started up, it sounded good. Okay. Well, we start off and get to the Bay Tunnel and it says, no stopping. $50 fine. And neither one of us, we had $15 between the two of us. What the hell, they'll have to tow us out, whether, and so we said, bah. Through the tunnel we went, through Delaware we went, and we got to.
Thanks for watching, and click subscribe to see more videos, and click the like button, and these will pop up on your feed. But thanks everybody, take care. Okay.